Okay.
Oh
It is.
man, finally, Jesus! Now we
It's
can get this
Jan.
thing rock and rolling.
It's January
Now we're
20th.
in.
I'm Anthony Pago. This is American Micro Podcast. It's 2024, and this is Rodney Hubbard. It's been a while. What,
Two
Rodney?
weeks, man. 2 weeks.
Rodney, what's been going on?
Dude, okay, so everyone who's listening, I'll just start from the beginning. So I had this hair up my ass, right? I was like, I'm gonna go to California and I'm gonna, record music and all these musicians are gonna be ready to rock and roll. And no, everyone other than Tony Muhammad, great guy, did a gig on Thursday, played one, two, three songs in front of a really awesome crowd. But from the beginning, man, it's just like one of those situations where you knew you should not have gotten out of bed. You should have stayed home. You just should have stayed home. That's all. That's all there is to it. And so the day I left, which was Sunday, the I was New Year's Eve, and got up. I was ready to go at 9 o'clock. Everything was cool. Prayed with my mom because moms pray. You know, traveling mercies, all that good stuff. Put a few more things in the car. Get in the car. Hit the ignition button. Battery's dead.
Uh,
Okay. Luckily, neighbor walks out the house. I get my car jumped. Right. I get to the auto zone. Can't get a battery until 12 o'clock. Right. I get my battery. 3 hours later. 3 hours later, I take off. And in my head, I'm like, dude, just wait until tomorrow. Just wait until tomorrow. I start driving. I'm ready to. I'm on the road, and I'm like, what am I doing? Anyways, halfway through Pennsylvania, I see a snowflake, and then I look up to the left, and I see nothing but snow on the side of the road, and I'm like, I start cracking up, Pago. I just start cracking up. I'm like, okay, this is how it's gonna be. Snow all the way to Ohio, all the way to Ohio. Get up in the morning, 5 inches of snow on the ground. I'm like in the motel. But I gotta say, man, I ate at this Denny's in Ohio, and they're really. I mean, these like the people that work there, these young girls, really healthy. I mean, really like cornbread. Like very. How can I say? Salt of the earth type. Beautiful, beautiful people. Salt of the earth kind of people. But like everywhere I went in Ohio, I was like the only black guy, like I was the only black guy. So I'm in this like, I don't know, AM, PM, getting some gas, once I get on the road. And there's this, well, first there's this guy, no teeth in his mouth, about 400 pounds. I'm like, how you doing? I'm like, how you going? He's like, oh, about 6 knots. I'm like, I start cracking up. He starts cracking up. But I'm like, dude, this is middle America, man. This is America. Like, then I stop at that other place with the girl and she's got like one tooth missing in the front, and I'm just like, and I say Happy New Year's to these like three serious, like, I'm just going to say dudes, okay? And they're like, Happy New Year, man. I'm like, yeah, I'm driving to California. They're like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. So I get back in my car, back in the Jeep, and start driving and start snowing again, right, in Ohio. And I'm like, dude, whatever. And I drive from Ohio to Missouri. That's where it all went wrong, dude. I went to Subway and ate a freaking sub, a tuna sub. I was in bed for 2 days.
It's the fish.
Like, how, like, it was bad, bro. It was like, they're going to fight. I thought I had, like, bro, it was bad. It was bad. It was so bad.
Ooh. That's once you started getting into the South too. That's kind of telling.
Yeah, yeah, dude. And the thing is like there were two teenage, like these guys had to be like 16, 17 years old who prepared the food.
Mm-hmm.
So like why would you let two young kids manage a restaurant like Subway when it comes down to like handling food? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So check this out, dude. So I stayed there, and then the one night, and then I woke up the next day and I knew I couldn't leave. So I just jumped back in bed and I'm up and down, up and down, up and down, bathroom back, bathroom to bed, water, Gatorade, everything, right? And I get up and I get dressed and I'm thinking it's like I look at my watch and it says 6 o'clock. And I'm thinking it's 6 o'clock in the morning. It's 6 o'clock at night, and I'm driving for like 2 hours, and I'm like, why hasn't the sun come up? I was delirious, dude. Delirious. And then I had to stop again and get another hotel, whatever. So I get up, and that was, where was I? I was just over the Oklahoma border. So I drive from Oklahoma all the way through to Tucumcari, New Mexico. Man, you want to talk about a beautiful place? Unbelievably beautiful, right? So I stop, everything's cool, get the hotel, get up the next, it's sunny outside, it's absolutely glorious, right? I get up the next day, because we're at altitude, like 5,000 feet, you could, the clouds are almost touching the road. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm in trouble, dude. I'm in trouble because I look at the weather, and that storm that was in California and San Diego is coming through Mexico. I sent you the photo, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Dude, it was like that for 2.5 hours, bro.
Yeah. Not a big fan.
I just put it on the snow. You've got snow, 4-wheel drive, sand and mud, sport, and just regular drive. So you've got 5 conditions. So I put it on snow and just went 50 miles an hour and just followed. I had a semi in front of me, just kept my tracks right in his tracks, dude. And I did that for 2.5 hours. Got out of that, and I was supposed to go all the way down. Oh God, what was it? All the way down 40, but GPS took me like, dude, this is how crazy technology is. It'll take you to the safest route instead of sending you. Because if I had stayed on 40, I would have been in Arizona at altitude. But I was going to hit another storm anyways. No matter which way I went. But the on the 125, it was the lesser of the two storms. You know what I mean? So I finally made it in. I drove from Tucumcari, which was about. See, what time did I leave? Like 8 o'clock. So I drove from 8 o'clock in the morning till like 12:30 at night. So like 16 hours straight. 970 something miles, dude.
Oh my God.
It was terrible, but I did it, and I'm like, okay, I could not, as much as I would even think about wanting to. It takes a lot, dude. You have to be in. This is what I found out about driving like that. No matter who you are, I don't know how these truckers do it, bro.
Drugs.
They're driving yeah, man. That's their job, to drive across country, like
Mhm.
on a daily. And then you realize what you realize, of course, after you haven't done it in a while, or you haven't done a cross country trip. What you realize is how freaking big this country is, dude.
Uh-huh.
And when people talk about, like, we're running out of space, no, we're not. We're not, dude. There's so much space in New Mexico, in Missouri. I mean, not that I'm saying people would ever want to live there, but I mean, dude, there's so much land that is owned by the government. I'm sure. I'm like, literally, I don't know who owns it. Could be some very, rich rancher, or just people who own the land. They've owned it for, you know, centuries, not centuries, but generations. Yeah, well, I guess I learned a lot about just not so much being an American, just really how big this country is, and how somehow, I mean, there's so much more to it than just what these politicians are fighting over, and then you get into California, and it's like everyone's happy. Everybody's happy, dude. Even in Mexico. I'm in Mexico right now, just to let everyone know. Um, I mean, people in Mexico are chill, dude.
Yeah.
I go over the border every day. It's just, I mean, it's like when I hear people say things like, oh, they're illegals, blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, well, you know what? That's a whole nother story, isn't it? You know, think about what we've done to those countries like Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Colombia, Ecuador. Like that one podcast we have about the Panama Canal, and how we took it from Colombia, that land from Colombia. We just said, hey, man, this is ours now. But anyways, I digress. Go ahead. How are you doing?
No, I'm not as like as you've been. Just a little bit colder than I'd like. Like the floors are cold because it's winter in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's not warm. I haven't had to I haven't had to travel, but I did travel down to Dallas to go buy some computer parts. I built a computer. It's not the first time I've built a computer, but it's the first time I've built a computer in like 20 years. So things have changed considerably. I went down to Micro Center because we don't have in Oklahoma City. We don't have like a computer store that sells in bulk, basically a Costco like for computers. We don't have that here. We used to when everybody had Circuit Cities and that kind of stuff. But
you guys have Best Buy?
Yeah, but Best Buy is mostly just like cases and a few peripherals, and they're all overpriced. There's no sales. There's especially no bundles. There's great bundles at Micro Center. So I ended up building like a gaming rig, but I bought this 4060 Ti. It's an NVIDIA card that like gamers will tell you not to buy. I even had a little short conversation with the Micro Center guy. He was like, I can get you a much better card for less money. I was like, yeah, but I'm not really a gamer. I'm actually building this to do some research of my own in developing kind of AI and AI image production, like software or whatever. So he was like, okay, that makes sense. Anyway, we went down to Dallas in like this very, very, very short break right after that storm, that probably the end of the storm that came through California that messed you up. So we got down there when it was still cold, but the ice and well, it was actually just snow basically down in Dallas. The snow had time to kind of like refreeze overnight, but also melt off by the time we got there. The only thing that was annoying was the traffic in Dallas and the tolls. I hadn't been down there in a long time, and so I was unaware that there were all of these like expedite lanes that are toll roads now. So I didn't know if there were going to be toll booths, if I could use my change that I had in my cup holders. I didn't know if we have what's called Pike Pass in Oklahoma. I didn't know if that would automatically be charged. I had no idea what was going on. So I should have prepared a little bit more on that end. But other than that, it was a great time. We went to In-N-Out to get a burger for my wife. I took her to a little ice creamery, I guess is what you would call it. I don't know what you'd call it, an ice cream store called Milk Cream, I think is what it was called. It's in South Greenwich, which is like a little neighborhood on the east side, northeast side. It's kind of central east, northeast. Super cute neighborhood, dude. You would love it. It looked a lot like North Park and just like all the little cute neighborhoods in San Diego. Um, Amazing modern like restaurants, probably 6 or 7 sushi places, all on this like mile strip. Lots of little modernized bars and places to shop, and every kind of different unique spin on food for various restaurants, thematic. So we decided we'd come back there to check it out when it's a little bit warmer. She had been craving the day before. She's kind of had a rough time. She's taken that whatever the new version of the Chantix drug is. She's been taking that for some weeks, and it is really hard on your psyche. So she's just been like, God, I need like. She's been basically depressed and angry at times, and she's cutting out cigarettes, so that takes a toll. But she's been craving the heck out of sweet foods. So one of the things she wanted was ice cream with donut like sandwiching it, which I've never heard of or had. So I looked it up the night before heading out there and found an In-N-Out with like that milk cream place close to it. We had that stuff first before I went to Microsoft. I was a thinking man as a husband. I was like, let's get her happy before we
Yeah,
go
man.
to my holy land, my computer store. Uh, yeah. So she was actually really pleasant during the shopping experience. She's not really she's completely self-admittedly completely not a computer person. Doesn't know how to use them. Definitely doesn't know how to build them. So it was a little bit of a mystery to her why we were talking about what parts we were talking about to the salespeople, who I believe are on commission based on how helpful they were. Just like completely not followed around in a bad way, not like, oh look, here's a brown person like or whatever. Here's somebody who might steal, somebody wearing a hoodie. They were like very helpful, very nice. Wanted to sell me more expensive parts. Managed to in a couple instances, but I ended up getting what I needed and more than that. I expected to like build out my computer over time, and I ended up buying all of the parts, all but the hard drive right then and there. So got those parts, came back to Oklahoma City, got it done in time for dinner. Great experience. Other than that, I've just been around the house, being cold, working on the computer, keeping the dogs happy, managing what plants I have inside the house. I do a lot of gardening. I don't think we've talked about that a lot on the show, but that's taken a lot of the time over winter. And doing my daytime job, which is teaching people how to paint paintings. Like I don't know if I can say his. Yeah, I can say his name. Bob Ross was a person, so I can say his name. I'm not endorsing any products or using it for my own like
For
whatever.
educational purposes only.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a job that's very similar to that, and I love it. Still doing it after 9 years, and that's been my experience since I've seen you and the internet last.
Yeah, I it's crazy, man, because I think that, you know, especially Like I literally I didn't know what was going to happen when I got here. You know, well I thought I knew. I thought I knew. You know, but you know when you get here and you realize that you're coming from, of course you realize you're coming from the East Coast, but again, two different worlds. You know, one is sunny and happy. The other one isn't so sunny. It's really cold. It's an old East Coast city with a lot of history, good and bad, and which every city has. But Baltimore has a lot of like, you know, really intense like history based on, you know, race and money and just, you know, the way the city's run. And one thing, getting back to, you know, to San Diego, is what I've noticed is, do you remember Todd Gloria? I asked you that. He was our
I'm
rep
not sure.
in our
I'm not.
park for a while. Anyways, he's the mayor, and I remember I talked to him about it. Like they've taken all the parking out of South Park, right? Like I mean North Park, like, and they put bike lanes in, dude, and no one's riding their bikes.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anyone. I've seen like two people in the last 2 weeks riding bikes in the bike lanes. There's no one
Yeah.
running in the bike lanes. There's no one walking in the bike lanes. It was just a bad move, man. It was a bad move. And again, you know, I have a couple friends who I stayed with like the first week I was here. They're paying $3,450 a month for rent.
Holy shit.
$450, bro.
Oh my God.
I mean, and you know, they're like, dude, we need to buy a house. I'm like, you need to move, dude. But
Yeah.
you can't. Where are you gonna go? Where
Yeah.
are you gonna go? You can't. You can't. Well, here's the thing. If you want to go somewhere warm, what are your options? Like you've got to get past New Mexico and you've got to get into Southeast Texas or Louisiana or Mississippi or Alabama, maybe Georgia, Florida, you know, like Tampa, Orlando, Miami. And I mean, those are your options for warmth, you know. And you know, they were saying, "Oh, you know, Florida, that would be great. You know, we could get down there." I'm like, when's the last time you were in Florida, man? They're like, well, you know, I mean, come on. I'm like, are you that secluded? Are you that unaware of what Florida is right now?
Yeah, that's a bad choice.
You know, oh, the housing prices in Florida are dropping. I'm like, no, they're surely not dropping. I have a buddy who lives in Tampa who says, no, they're not dropping.
Yeah, I would find that hard to believe, but if I was shown examples of the price drops, I would very initially, at the very drop of a hat, look up the insurability of those regions, because a lot of the insurance companies are dropping the ability to get coverage, because there's like not just the weather changes, but like the ensuing flooding issues. And newly, there's a lot of tornadoes. Now Florida is a big part of Tornado Alley that's kind of moved east. It's just, yeah, it's not where I would want to live, culture problems aside. And I think that the culture problems are enough reason to not want to go
just
to Florida.
Problem alone, dude. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, just because my bud, I was in the Marine Corps with him, so he owns a couple properties down there, and he's just like, how did he say it? I'll just paraphrase it. He goes, it's not about getting ahead. He goes, it's really literally about keeping what you have, and just staying, you know, staying within your own bubble, and just not trying to, like, you know, once upon a time, I guess, you know, when we were, I'm not even going to say younger, once 10 years ago, 15 years ago, let's say 2004, 2005, you could just go anywhere, do anything. I mean, think about it. 9/11, recession, COVID, all within 20 years. So right now in America, and I'm sure other places on this planet that we don't know about, but right now in America, people are paying the price for, and this is just a cultural thing more than it is like economics. People are paying the price for just not being ready for things that could possibly happen to them. Like, if you have a job or you have a career and you're making X amount of dollars, and that X amount of dollars is, let's just say you live in Houston or Dallas or somewhere where the dollar goes a little further, and you're making, let's just say you're making $120,000, $130,000 a year, and you're single, you're in your late 20s, 30s, whatever, and you don't have any money in the bank, dude, what's wrong with you? I'm telling you, this is, and I'm just going to say this for anyone who's listening. What happened to me when I left Mexico in 2020 left Mexico / California in 2020, and I got to Maryland, and I had to do all of my stuff for, not radiation. Anyways, because I had the whole prostate thing. But anyways, while I was there, I was like, dude, bro, you need to get your shit together. Get it together. And that's what I did for 3 years, man. And so, I mean, if that's not what you're thinking right now, I'm talking about anyone. If that's, especially when you're, dude, just put my goal, do something, because this isn't getting any better. And everyone's like, oh, it's Biden. The guys on the right, it's Biden's fault, It's Biden's fault. Well, Biden's got nothing to do with this, man. Biden's done everything. He's Biden. That's a whole other joke. But, I mean, it's a situation where people in this country just need to grow up and just realize that there was a time period between, I would say, 1947 and 1972. There's like a 25-year time period where America was just pretty awesome. That's never coming back, man. It's never coming back. I mean, let's make America great. You mean that 25 years was like, good for a certain amount of people, for a certain few, and just about everybody else suffered, and not so much suffered, but I mean, we weren't. I think if you look at it, the pay flattened out, or it stagnated. I think around in the mid 70s, and it hasn't really done anything since. And if this is like the pay rate, that's inflation. Inflation just skyrocketed. So, it's going to be a different America. It's already a different America. I mean, and your orange clown, your orange messiah, Donald Trump, he's not going to save you, man. Good luck.
Yeah, I saw some studies had been released recently, and there's some ensuing articles that have come out, and these were more like sociological studies where they interview people, and they were talking to millennials who have been blamed for the downfall of everything from hand soap to fast food restaurants to the lack of population replacement, to the home crisis or the housing crisis. How they're being blamed, I have no idea. But the study basically came down to the findings. Basically, came down to millennials not having corporate like not brands what do you call that when you stick with somebody along the way through thick and thin.
Oh,
Like
I know what you're talking about. Corporate
loyalty. There's loyalty.
loyalty. Yeah.
So they're talking about like millennials not having loyalty to their jobs and to like the economic sector basically in general. The reasoning behind that, the discovery was, I mean, predictable, that they realized pretty early on they got disenfranchised by there not being a two-way street for that the jobs were going to fire them as soon as it was economically viable for them to do that, when it was cheaper, made them a bigger profit to fire them. And if anybody wonders why that is, it's because if you keep cycling through employees, you keep the wages down. You're not constantly giving people raises when there's inflation to show your appreciation and to keep your employee, in a living wage, to make sure that they can afford to live in the houses near the business so they can drive, put gas in the car to drive to work. If you keep just cycling through workers, then the wages can be kept low. And so millennials had realized this very early on and took on the attitude, is what the study reports, of living life to live life, not to work, which is a philosophy I took very early without having to think about myself being a part of like some grand scheme. But I innately knew as a kid that, growing up in Oklahoma, conservatives here had the mentality that conservatives have kind of taken on everywhere, including like up in the north, like in New York, and what are thought of California, what are thought of as traditionally liberal states. Well, there's conservatives everywhere. And in Oklahoma, when I was a child, there was a very selfish mentality amongst the business owners who were primarily conservative of, hey, you're here to help my business. I'm not here to help you. And so that's why I started, the process of seeking out different places and experiences and building art instead of, building up somebody else's business. And the findings in these studies kind of correlate, kind of match my own. And it's not that anybody expects they're going to get rich doing this, or they're going to sustain their life all the way through to retirement. In fact, quite the opposite. Everybody's got anxiety because they know that there's not really a plan that works for everybody, because there's so many different types of people in so many different regions. That plan that was the American dream that was supposed to work for everybody has been destroyed by the boomers and the older generations. I'm not blaming every boomer, so save your hate mail. But in large part, the greediest of the greedy that own the larger corporations that hire the most number of people were told by their accountants, who they asked, how do we make more money? They just took the worst advice, which was, you can cycle through people, you can reduce their hours, you can do tricks to keep them from being called employees by putting them on as contractors, stop offering them, health care or whatever is legal or in the gray area, to stop offering them, and force people to relocate. There's all sorts of tricks. And it makes people, decide that what's the point of working for these types of people? I'm just going to kill myself without having the ability to retire. The best part of the kind of like promised American life back then was that eventually you were guaranteed to have X number of years at the end of your life to sit back and enjoy things, to buy an RV and drive around the country, go to Yellowstone, to move to Florida, and to, I don't know what you do in Florida. Do you fish in the sea? Do you go to the beach? I don't know. But, those days are gone. Everybody knows well and good now that you are not guaranteed, 10, 20, 30 years at the end of your life to just enjoy life. You're going back to
No.
work. Yeah, you're going back to work. That's what's happening. So the younger generations, and when I say younger, I no longer mean people in their 20s. I don't mean people in their teens. These are people my
Yeah.
age who are in their 40s, who are in their 50s, who, you understand the way this goes too. And so just Americans. These are just Americans now. Americans now are beginning more and more, starting with millennials. They're really the big group that took this as part of their identity to live life, to have experiences, to have friends, to have these memories to show for their efforts instead of focusing on building generational wealth for their bosses, for their shareholders, for the shareholders of the companies they work for. And the problem with that, obviously, is that nobody knows what the heck is going to happen in 10 years, in 20 years, when, like you said, they have an emergency, they need a surgery, there's a natural disaster. And the natural disasters are going to be coming, have been coming, are coming more and more often, increasingly so every year. So, yeah, it's a really difficult time for the eldest generations, the greatest generation, to be to really be giving it to us from the behind, so to speak. But they have been for decades, and those rich people, they may be enjoying it now, but I have a sneaking suspicion that when things get worse for the vast majority of people, it's not going to be as fun to be sitting in your in your yacht or in your pool room when you don't have any friends to come and enjoy it with you, because everybody's scrounging what they can, picking up the pieces from their destroyed homes, from their destroyed lives. I'm not saying this is going to happen to everybody, but more and more people are headed down that path, and it's become apparent to the general population now. So, yeah, things are not going to improve. So if you haven't thought about uh, some sort of management plan to try to insulate yourself from that, or try to work around it, you might want to work on it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that you say that because like now, uh, both my friends, they're like, "Dude, we got to go get our masters." I'm like, and I'm thinking in my head like, so you're gonna go spend more money
Right.
on, yeah, I mean, like, dude, that's even if you spend like, even if you just get like not a degree, but you get like a cert, like you get certified in a certain, you know, curriculum. Even if you get a certification, that's $5,000, dude. Put that in a 401k, dude. I'm telling you, that's all the reason. Okay, so I went out and I did a refi. You know, cost me like $3,000, but that was put into my loan. But I'm saving $130 a month, right? At a lower rate. I'm going to take that $130. I'm already putting like I think it's a certain amount into my 401k every month. I'm going to put that $130. So at the end of see, I'll be putting almost $400 a month into my 401k, dude.
Nice.
I got to do it. I mean, it's just I could sit here all day and complain about. Oh yeah, that's the thing, man. Because I mean, there are a lot of people out there. You and I both know this that just they don't have safety net. They don't have. It's just it's like literally it's me. Um, it'd be like me, my wife, and my kids, and that's it. Like, our mom and dads don't have the wherewithal to help us out. Like my parents, I mean, my mom and dad just, I don't know, man, they just did it the right way. You know what I mean? They just made sure like all their I's were dotted and their T's were crossed. And so, I mean, I had a safety net, but you and I both know, I'll put it like this. I was talking to a guy yesterday. He was doing the VA thing, the DAV thing, um, for veterans. I was talking to him. He said 1/3 of the homeless in San Diego are veterans. There are a lot of homeless veterans, dude. A ton. And I mean, dude, we've literally, I hate to use that word literally, but we have shit on so many people who defended this country, and we've given them nothing in return, like absolutely nothing. And it's just, again, like I'm not even coming full circle. Like, I'm proud to be an American. I get it, bro. I get it. It's cool. But when you drive across this country and you realize, like, you look at some of these people and you're just like, dude, really? Like, 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 how well are these people? Like there's something wrong, dude. There's something wrong. The fabric, and better yet, what's baked into the soil of America is now, or better yet, what was planted in the soil or baked, however you want to, I would say planted, is now starting to grow, and it's starting to fester, and it's starting to like rear its ugly head, and people are realizing. I mean, when you hear people, never in my wildest dreams did I hear, well, maybe, power to the people. But when I hear people saying, let's take down the system, like
Right.
all been on TikTok in like 2 or 3 weeks, but that's what it's about, dude. Take down the system. Let's take down the system. I'm like, and this is for educational purposes only, just to let everyone know. I'm not trying to take down the system, but that's what you hear people saying, man. Not happy. I don't have enough money for this.
I mean, I've always had a problem with people who make those like pronouncements as like, are those suggestions as like a best path forward, who don't seem to also follow it up with an understanding, or at least express some little bit of understanding in how many people will suffer and die, innocent people. I mean, they'll often like acknowledge that it's going to be an upheaval where a lot of chaos and death will go on. But when somebody doesn't express concern about how many people, innocent people, will go through suffering and death with complete dismantling of a system, I'm immediately like turned off by wanting to talk to them or have future contact with them at all. They're an extremist, in my opinion, and it's not just a lack of the ramifications, the result of innocents dying and suffering. They also almost never have a comprehensive plan for what's going to replace that system, which is not necessarily a good way to mitigate deaths and suffering. The deaths and suffering are baked in to revolution. That's just going to happen. But you need some semblance of a plan if you're going to enact revolution. And that's where most revolutionaries fall flat on their face. Where they usually fail too is organization. You got to organize. You got to plan.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to tell anybody revolution's what I'm advocating for. I'm definitely not. But if you're going to go around spouting these things off, you're going to be called an idiot, at least inside other people's heads. They might not tell you to your face, but they're thinking it. If you go around saying the whole system needs to be broken down to be rebuilt up without talking about how you're going to go about replacing the systems that provide people the essentials, which is like, food, water, shelter, some type of civilization. There's other needs inside civilization, like places to meet where things start to break down. You need social safety nets for sure. There's actual physical safety nets that need to occur for the outliers, or the outliers can become a problem, and that will break down your entire system or structure, whatever you've decided will replace what we have here. If you're not pushing ideas on what to replace with revolution, you're not actually a revolutionary. You're an idiot, and you're a nihilist. You're just death and destruction. So yeah, I've always been very leery. Is it leery or weary? I think weary's tired.
Both.
It's leery. Yeah, both. Both
Oh,
tired and skeptical of
you know what it
people
is,
who
man?
spout
You
those
know what it
ideas.
is? It's like I hear these people, they're talking, and I'm like, dude, I just tell them straight up, I'm like, well, I literally said this. I'm like, well, if you want to do something, let's all meet in a certain city. It's like 20 of us together, 10 of us, 5 of us, and just sit down and hammer this thing out. Let's build a community of people that can build awareness, you know, on a, in your area, build a community, dude, we have all the resources in the world, and crickets. Crickets,
Right,
bro. Like no one
right.
wants to. They want to talk about it, but they don't want to do. People want to talk, and I get that, man, because you're frustrated. You want to be heard, and you want to be, you want someone to listen to you and vindicate you. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's just like, you've got to realize that there are millions, not hundreds of thousands. There are millions of people out there living in these nowhere communities, like, bro, driving through Missouri and Oklahoma, the small cities, not cities, towns that you drive through, where there's nobody, like no
Yeah.
one. They're that big.
Yep.
I mean, like, and again, I told you, like, when you're like driving through like New Mexico and there's a gas station, you get out of the car and you look around. That's the only gas station for like 40 miles. Where do these people live? Where I don't see any houses. I don't see anything. Arizona's the same way. Texas was the. I mean, dude, like, how? What's going to happen if something really wrong economically, uh, socially,
Yeah.
culturally
Right.
goes wrong? Like really, really wrong in this country. Not like, oh, we've dealt with that before. Like, no, we've never dealt with that before. Like this is pretty bad. You know what I mean? What's going to go?
Yeah.
Like, where the people? What there's I don't think there's I don't think Americans have the resolve to really understand. Like they can't. Americans don't have the like that. We don't have that resolution mindset anymore. Like we can't. We're not in it to like look at something and solve something. We're not okay. There's what how do we resolve this crisis? Take back America, Donald Trump, MAGA, make America great again. For who? For what? I mean, with what money? Whose money? Whose money? Our money. Because all you're going to do, Donald, is make your rich friends richer.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head as to why that resolve has gone away because we've been, I say we, I mean, the general populace who tend to lean towards conservative or just consistent action that we've taken over the decades. We've moved our big program risk taking from a collective ideal run by the government. And I'm not saying the government runs things perfectly, they don't. But we've said basically as a group that we're no longer going to off-put that risk in like put that risk into the hands of the government and collectivizing Americans through like taxation and appropriating those funds through Congress into big programs like the moonshot to get to the moon. We're pushing it into the public sector. I mean, we've already pushed it into the public sector, where you have people like Musk, private investors who use their own wealth and bring in the wealth of others. They rarely use their own wealth. They usually use the wealth of others. And then those are where all of the big risks are taken. And it does work. There are reasons that works. You can take on a lot more risk when you can use private capital, and people get less, pissed off when a private company fails 100 times and then finally succeeds the last few times, and then boom, they have a new innovative product that's been made cheaper through their consistent, failures and improvements. The government, when it has a large project and it uses a ton of money and it fails a couple times, the resolve in the people who have been funding this and watching this project to continue investing money and to continue watching these programs dwindles very quickly. People got very leery of handing money to NASA in the 80s when we had like the Challenger explosion. People were like, what are we wasting all of this money going to the moon for? Why are we going to the moon? Why are we going to space? But I guarantee you, when a private organization gets to the moon and starts extracting helium and the heavy water that's there, that's useful for like nuclear fuel generation, and starts mining minerals and metals from asteroids, the comets, and whatnot, the debris that's flying through space, the cosmic, debris that's just out there for the taking. Once they start bringing that in and making trillions of dollars off of that, people are going to all of a sudden flip and think, oh, it's such a great idea to go out into space. It's saved us. We don't no longer have like a lack of resources in X, Y, and Z fields. People just don't have an appetite for taking huge risks when you collectivize it on a governmental level, because we've been trained, indoctrinated to fight about it so hardcore and consider it too big a risk taking, and we're too kind of like sports team about things. If it was their initiative and they won, I hate that because that was their idea and my people told me to be against it, and I hate that they won. So we're going to defund that in the future, push it off to private, organizations, and let them take the profits. That's where we're at today in America. That's what we've done with all of our infighting and our sportsifying, our politics.
I mean, it's like okay, so if Donald Trump lies and he pisses off the liberals, I love that. I don't care if he lied or not, especially if he lies and it pisses off the libs. I'm totally going to vote for this guy, because whatever we can do to just hand it to the libs just to piss them off, yeah, that's the person I'm going to vote for. I'm like, dude, really? This guy's not doing anything for anyone, Man, I mean, if that comes to fruition, I don't even know what to say. I mean, again, driving across this country and you look at all the trucks and all the commerce and all the this country has so many resources, so many natural resources. This planet has so many natural resources, but we as humans have not really been able to manage them in a very fruitful and, I should say, just, efficient way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're going to go to the moon and destroy the moon. The moon's that big, bro. Why would we fuck up something that makes our freaking? Why would?
Yeah, it's
come on, man.
It's gonna be another example of where we get up there and we make a bunch of mistakes, and future generations are expected to clean up the problems, and whether they have the resources and the wherewithal, the interest, the drive to do that type of stuff, and they shouldn't be forced to clean up the generations' problems before them anyway, just to extract wealth for a very particular few. But that's what's going to happen if history repeats itself, and if things keep going the way they've gone throughout the entirety of the American experience. That's what's going to happen. And if they don't have the resources to start regulating and cleaning up the problems that we create unexpectedly on the moon, there's really not really any good evidence for us going further into the universe as a species. Why should we be allowed? I mean, I'm not saying some aliens should come in and exterminate us. That would be awful. But just as a species, speaking to ourselves, giving ourselves permission to go out into the universe, what makes us think that we're intelligent and big-hearted enough and responsible enough to get out there and start populating the stars and managing the resources or doing anything with them if we
We're
can't
not.
handle things like that?
We're
Yeah,
not. And we
yeah,
can't even. Come on.
it's disheartening as somebody. I mean, I've seen it all my life, but it's disheartening as somebody, in my middle age now. I know that you're like, I wouldn't say quite a bit, but you are older than I am, and I am middle aged now, 45 here in a month, which I would say is no longer young,
Yeah.
and to see with like clearer vision what the future of humanity is going to hold with what experience I have now. And being right in a lot of my estimations and how kind of poorly humans manage things and what type of selfish judgment a lot of us have, myself included at times. Everybody, falters there a bit once in a while just because we can't keep, our eyes on so many balls all at once. It's very hard. I don't blame
Yep.
anybody for that. The best thing you can do is try to fix what you broke and try to be better in the future. The problem is there's just too many people not trying to be better, not trying to fix the things they broke, and saying, F it. Like, what's the point? I don't owe anybody anything. Nobody did that for me. It's not fair is a phrase I hear a lot. Nobody gave that to me. Why should I give that to other people? Be that an apology or the time and effort to repair things that you broke, or a bit of your own resources and energy to make things better for everybody else, including yourself. It's not fair is the thing that I constantly hear. And the thing is like those same type of people will tell you life's not fair when they take something from you. Or when they get the advantage, they won't share their advantage, and they will tell you life's not fair. So a little bit hypocritical, humanity as a species, but to kind of counter that on a positive note, I wouldn't have learned all of these things, and I wouldn't have had an amazing experience. I've had an amazing experience throughout life. I've seen a lot of things. I've met a lot of great people. I've done a lot of interesting things. Had there not been enough people to randomly run into throughout the various cities that I've lived in and throughout the various years that I've lived, there are good people out there. There are responsible people out there. There are people with good ideas. There are people trying their best. So there's that stuff going on out there, and like you said, I think that's why it's important that anybody thinking about that stuff and listening to this conversation now needs to take seriously the idea of doing what you said, joining communities or starting communities. I know it's hard. Finding the space is hard. Finding the time is harder. Organizing is probably the hardest thing humans can do. But you're not alone, and you can offload some of those things to other people. Getting together and talking about them first. Yeah, talk is cheap, but that is the place that you have to start. The trick is to push and push other people to join you in actual physical efforts to then follow through and get the next steps done. So secure those locations, secure, a habit of getting into these conversations and then taking action. And once you start getting into a habit of having these communications as a community and taking action, boom, you've started a small revolution. You started an effort to improve things, and each little step for those programs on a collective scale will actually make a difference. So that's, in my opinion, where we need to start heading from this point forward. It's not going to save us all. It's not going to save everyone, but it's going to save some people. And if that's the best we can do, then I think it's worth it.
I agree. I was watching this thing on YouTube yesterday. What is it? What are those mothers called? The mothers who ban the books.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Mothers of Liberty, or something like that. Moms of Liberty.
Something like that. Yeah, I was watching one of their co-founders on MSNBC last night. Dude, these people are dangerous, dude. And these are the people who literally, well, They have nothing else to do. They have all the time in the world to put this type of like really divisive energy into just crippling our culture. You know,
Yeah.
if they don't, they're literally for young white children to learn anything about what happened to the rest of the world.
Right.
The world, this culturally speaking, the world is it's almost a global culture. You know what I mean? I mean, we have an American culture, but globally, I mean, you can find out anything you want. You know, banning books. What are you trying? What are you? If I really want to know something, I'll just Google it. If I
Yeah.
really want to know something, I'll just go to YouTube. If I really want to know something, I'll go to AI. Right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can find out everything I want. But a child who really needs to learn things from a book, get them out of the. Get 'em, yeah, we've thrown away the ability that really brought mankind from stone tablets, you know, all the way to you know, brought them out of the how can I say, the Stone Age again. But I mean, these things are they're inefficient, man. I mean, if you think it's just a situation where you can tell someone, you can basically tell someone, hey, you know what, we don't want you to read this. Well, my child is black. Why can't he read about a young black child who's done A B C D E F G or a dude? They banned the freaking a book on Jackie Robinson. They banned a book on Roberto Clemente. I mean, these two of the greatest baseball players. I mean, you know, and so that's where we are. You know, banning things, taking things away from our culture, taking things away from the populace, just things that matter. You know, small things. You know, and incrementally, what they're going to do is they're going to take this away. They're going to take that away. They're going to take that away. Just tiny bits, little by little, over the course of time, to the point where, other than going on a laptop, and at some point they're going to regulate that as well. You know,
Right.
they're going to say, hey, you know what? We don't want this on the internet. We don't want this on the internet, and that's when the pitchforks come out, dude. And I'm not
I think.
saying, you know, I'm
Yeah.
not
I think that that's all going to depend on who actually wins the next few elections. I think you're right. That's where it's headed, not just in America. Sorry, the United States. There are
yeah,
other countries that are leaning towards fascism, towards conservative far right, so religious, nationalism. Um, it depends on who wins in all of these like culture wars in all of these nations. But the United States has very like if we export anything, it's culture. So really, a lot of it depends on us here too. If we begin exporting fascism again, like we did in the 1920s, we are going to encourage everybody else to do exactly what you said. If if the voters and the judges and the investment people, the rich people, if they decide to turn their back hard enough on fascism, you might see those types of people, like the Moms for Liberty or whatever, slink back further into their cult. We've seen cultism. We've seen the MAGA stuff turn harder and harder core into culty type stuff with like their QAnon stuff, and kind of Q fell apart, but they still do all those crazy conspiracies and their insane beliefs on their leader, the rejection of any criticism, the rejection of experts. Only the leader has the truth, and believe anything he or she says. But let's be honest, it's almost always going to be a he. No matter how insane it is, no matter how clearly disprovable it is. And it becomes pretty apparent, not to everybody, but to at least half of any population is going to look at cult members and recognize what it is. You're going to look at it and you're going to go, this is insane. These people are clearly insane. Once they've kind of gotten past a certain point of this level of insanity, they've bought fully into a cult. It's developed fully into a fully apparent cult. And I think that these elections are going to be the deciding factor on which way that goes, whether kind of Western ideals and cultures are exported to the rest of the world, and encourage them all to become adherents to, involved in the cultish mentality, the fascism, or whether we all back up and go and look at these ideas and these people who still adhere to them, as the insane people they are and as members of the cult. I'm certainly never going to join the cult of what would be, the United States in the future if we head towards fascism. I'll just be one of those people, out in the woods, who says I'm not participating, if that happens. But I have a lot of hope in my heart that we're going to reject fascism well enough here in the United States that we're not going to continue exporting that idea like we are now. I don't have much hope for places like Italy. And Bolsonaro, the followers of them, places where you have a lot of poverty, like the United States does, but where there's not a lot of resources being pumped into the public sector. We have a ton of resources being pumped into the public sector. I know it's being rediverted and stolen by rich people, but we still have a tremendous volume of resources and money here in the United States. So it's not quite too late for us. So I think you're going to see at least a big opportunity, a chance for us to reject it, at least temporarily for now. I don't have much hope for a few other places, key places in the planet. So I don't think this fight will be over if we reject fascism in 2024 and in 2028. But I think that we'll be much better off here in the United States culturally. I'm not saying that we're going to save ourselves from the corporate greed or the environmental problems that we've already snowballed into big problems. But I do think that you're going to start to see, this is just my prediction, my 2024 prediction is that over the next 8 years, you're going to start seeing culturally the younger generations who have this awareness that we spoke about kind of in the beginning or the middle of this podcast, start to take over leadership. And those that don't outright reject progressivism will kind of take enough lead roles to usher us into a slightly better position. That's just my suspicion.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. You know, it's like when you watch those Star Trek movies, and you've got those people living out in the desert in those uh, those dwellings. Those dwellings that are made out of dirt and clay, and it's
Yeah.
all technology inside of them. But that's where that's where we could be headed, man. Just people living. Like I said, I remember stopping in this podunk town in Missouri, like just between the Missouri and the Oklahoma border. One stoplight, the whole town. And I looked to the right, and there's a guy crawling out of a tent on the side of the road, like the only guy in the tent in this one horse town, crawling out of the tent. I'm just like, good grief, man. Like I'm like in your head, you're like you're driving and you're like, how in God's name did that happen?
Yeah. Well,
You
I
know?
mean, that just to agree with you in a kind of a depressing way. Right before Christmas, this isn't the only example that I've seen, but it was one that stuck out because it was so extreme. I'm in Walmart, and like the city version of what you just explained. I'm in Oklahoma City. I'm in Oklahoma. There was this guy in the middle of the Walmart aisle holding a can of beans. And this was a gentleman who, he may have had some underlying issues that I am not aware of. But by the way he dressed, it was clear that he's bought into some kind of doomer, conservative, fear mongering stuff. He was wearing a bulletproof vest. He was wearing all black. I mean, he looked like a school shooter. This guy was, like I have nothing against like, people being overweight or whatever. I'm almost all Americans, like more, the majority of Americans are. I'm overweight. But this guy had clearly not taken care of himself. I could smell him from the beginning of the aisle, and it just got worse the closer I got. He looked very, very sad. He looked very confused, and he finally like looked up at me and he started asking me. He was like, "Is this type of bean okay? All I eat are Taco Bell beans, and they're out of those." And I'm looking at him. I'm not looking disdainful or anything. I'm just shocked. I'm looking at his stuff. Like he's got like weapons, little the police like belt with like this ammo like or this bulletproof vest and all of his tactical gear on, and he's like trying to decide if it's safe to eat El Paso beans because he's never had them before, and he's only eaten exclusively Taco Bell can food. And this is like, in my mind, a prime example of where we're headed and what's happening to Americans, whether you're in the city or you're in a tent in a rural town, if we don't back away from this insanity. It's insanity. It literally is. It's turned this guy into an insane person who only eats Taco Bell, Taco Bell canned food and wears tactical gear to Walmart. And it looks like he almost never leaves his house except to come to Walmart to buy Taco Bell beans. So, I'm afraid it just happens everywhere. And if Oklahoma is one of many southern states that develops this faster and is exporting it faster, which is clearly happening, you can find in more northern states and more liberal states, the rural people are taking on. It's happening in Canada. We've seen us exporting it. We have to be aware that this is now becoming endemic. It's spreading. It's like a pandemic, but that means it's like endemic means a pandemic is now settled in and it's pervasive and it's going to last forever. So like the common cold. We have to be aware that this is becoming endemic. That people are the culture war on the social media and on big media and conservative social media and conservative traditional media, the fear mongering and the push to scare these people so that they vote for conservatives and push away progressivism and change. It's working, and there are people who would rather dress this way, think this way, live in a tent, rather than communicate with their neighbors and try to find people to help them, and rather than to try to help other people themselves. That's happening, and we all have to be careful and aware that that could happen to us. If everybody starts behaving that way, you're going to mirror it.
Go ahead.
No, that's it. I was saying, like, if everybody behaves that way and there's no other option and nobody's willing to join together, everybody's going to mirror it. Everybody, out of sheer necessity, is going to become that type of person, a hermit who's scared about everything, who has to protect themselves from everybody else, who all of a sudden has guns and, bulletproof vests and only eats Taco Bell cans. I mean, if you're not careful, you can join that mentality. So I think we all need to be aware of that.
Here's the thing, and I'm going to end it with this. So, with all of this technology that we have, with our ability to find information at the touch of a button, why is it that we can't make our culture, our society, economically and politically and socially, just a better place? Maybe not for everyone, but let's just say 75% of people who want to participate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If there are people willing to participate culturally, socially, politically, economically, I know it's a war of ideas, but dude, we're killing each other. Like, I don't like you, and I hope I don't like you just because you're one of them. Dude, I haven't done anything to you. You don't even know me. And you're telling me that you don't like me? I could save your life one day. Someone who thinks like I do fought for this country. Millions of people who think like I do fought for this country.
Yep.
I was one of them. I served. My whole family did. We're all Democrats. Crazy, dude.
Yep. Yep. Well, I know it was a little depressing, but for anybody who's followed us, we are not absolutely defeated.
But it's the truth.
We don't.
It's the truth.
It is the truth. I just think everybody needs to be aware. Don't go out and buy bulletproof vests to wear to Walmart. Please don't.
Yeah.
Just start opening up to people. Maybe start a podcast. I think that both Rodney and I are better for being able to talk about our issues. And for anybody listening, thank you for doing that. So, and thanks, Rodney, for opening this venue for me to talk to people with. Also, congrats on making it all the way out to the West.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's what happens when you drive across country, dude. I mean, you sit there and you think to yourself, wow, you're looking at stuff like no radio, no music, just everything's off, and you're just looking at America. And that's all you're doing. And you're talking to people, you're saying hello to people, and you're just, viewing their mannerisms, just listening to them. It's crazy, bro. But at any rate, yeah, this is great.
Well, good. We had a little break. We're going to do some more podcasting. Rodney's out west. I think you're still going to be moving between Mexico and San Diego. So timing wise, we might be on some different days, but we're still at it. So for anybody watching our stuff or checking it out newly, expect some more. So, yep. We love you guys.
Soon.
I'll see you on the inside, dude. Yep.
All right, man.
Peace.